Okay, so that's the recording, and I'm not sure how from your end you assign the interpreter channel.
Let me see, interpretation. Okay, here it goes.
Let's see. One second.
So start.
Okay, very good. But before I accept it, well, I will, if you don't mind right now, so we can test them, both in English and in Spanish, because I can toggle back and forth as needed. But,
okay, so if you and Kiara would like to start in the Spanish channel?
Yeah, please, we can check it. So I'm gonna accept it.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm gonna move to the Spanish channel, okay?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. I apologize for our technical delays. So my name is Mary Alice Martinez. I am one of the case managers with the ARC of San Antonio. I would like to welcome you to our Planning to the Future session on the high school graduation. What comes next? This session is brought to you by the ARC of San Antonio, along with Patrick Kelley from A&M San Antonio with TU CASA, and Adriana Martinez with the Texas Workforce Commission. Just a few of the basic housekeeping. All attendees are muted. The video option is disabled. In order to select your language, please click on the globe down below and select your preferred language. Remember to mute original audio so you're not hearing both the English and the Spanish version. We will leave time at the end of the presentation for any questions. If you have questions, please type them into the Q&A box, and we will answer them at the end of today's presentation. We are recording this session to make it available to more families. So please do not disclose any information that is private or personal in the Q&A or in the chat feature, because we adhere to HIPAA standards. We will also be providing a link with a recording of the presentation and the PowerPoint presentation for future reference and sharing with others who may be interested. So now I would like to turn it over to Patrick Kelley with A&M San Antonio to discuss more about their TU CASA program.
Thank you, Mary Alice. So I am the director of the TU CASA program at Texas A&M University San Antonio. We are a brand new program. We started last January of this year. We bring students with intellectual disabilities to campus. We put them in inclusive college courses with their peers who are here to get college degrees. We provide vocational internship placements so that students can practice their work skills in an area where you would hope to get a job. And then we also highly support students to participate in social activities on campus, join clubs, go to events, those kinds of things. Students are also asked to use campus services if you are in the TU CASA program. You have every opportunity for anything on campus that any other student would have. The program is 3 semesters long. So you would be here for the spring semester of 1 year, and then the entire following year, fall and spring. After that, then we would help you find a job in an area where you hope to be interested and wanting to get to work. That's a really, really quick and easy explanation of the program. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Does anyone have any questions for Patrick? Okay, I think Nora raised her hand. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Nora. 1 second. Okay, Nora.
It's showing on my computer that Nora is still muted. Oh, here we go.
Okay, there she goes.
Okay, how do you get involved with this program?
Well, you can go to our website. I will put the web address in chat. You can go to the website and look at the information. You would put in an application. We are at the very end of taking applications at this time. So if you want to put one in this weekend, we can get you in this January. We actually are only looking to take 5 students with intellectual disabilities. You would put in an application, and then somebody from the school would contact you to come in for an interview.
Okay, well, my child is a junior right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to wait?
We take students after they've graduated high school. For the most part, students, because we do start in the middle of a school year, we would recommend that students go either to the Burleson Center in the Edgewood schools or the Nellie Reddix Center in Northside to put in at least a semester. But for your junior, yeah, you would want your student to finish high school first.
Okay, so I shouldn't put in an application until he finishes high school, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, I'm seeing a hand from the interpreter. So a question just came in from Nathan and Joyce saying, I assume students would live at home, not on campus. Is transportation available? Students can live on campus. We have a residence hall here, and students are more than welcome to live on campus. For students who don't, the school doesn't supply transportation. We're not like the public schools where we don't provide lunches and we don't provide transportation. That being said, we work closely with students and their supports at home to figure out transportation, meaning if via trans is a good option, then we would do everything we can to help the student become qualified and ride the city bus to get to school. And the city bus drops off literally right outside the door of the building I'm in right now. So we can help with transportation, but we don't transport students to school.
There's another a question. Is the program only open to high functioning students with autism, or is this just a program for IDD students?
At the present time, it's only a program for students with IDD, but as the program grows, that will be something that we will be looking at. So for this coming year, the students will all be ID, but for future cohorts, we will be looking at making the program bigger with more students and more opportunities.
And let's see, what criteria for students to be accepted? Do you accept a verbal versus a nonverbal students?
We would accept students who are able to communicate either verbally, or if it is augmentative communication devices, if a student has apps or other equipment that helps them communicate, if they have communication systems, we would be able to take in nonverbal students. The biggest criteria is honestly behavior. If a student cannot sit in class for up to an hour and 20 minutes without interrupting their own learning, the learning of others, or the instructor, that isn't a good candidate for college. But honestly, if a student can sit there and do their best to pay attention and allow all those students around them to learn, then honestly, they're a good candidate for the program. We have supports in place with peer coaches. Those are other college students who will go to classes and help the students during class, and then with tutoring after class, doing homework together. So students who are nonverbal are very welcome to apply and would be considered.
Thank you for that information, Patrick. Does anybody else have any questions for Patrick?
So Mary Alice, I saw another question come in that says, are there helpers to get students from class to class? If that is necessary, that is something that can be considered. But our hope is that after some time, we don't expect the students to be able to get from class to class right away. We expect them to need some help, and there would be students or staff members that could help them get around. But we would hope that over time, the students would be able to learn the campus. We're a very new school, so our campus is pretty small where colleges are concerned. But it would be our hope that the students would learn campus and be able to get from place to place over time on their own, but we don't expect them to start there.
Patrick, I do have a question. What is your contact information in case they would like to speak to someone directly?
Putting it in the chat right now.
Thank you so much for that.
Email and phone.
Okay. Thank you for that, Patrick. Does anybody else have any questions for Patrick?
Well, college is still a really new concept for students with IDD. There are a lot of programs in the state. We will be able to work with other programs. We work very closely with College Station, and we work with Denton, North Texas. I do see someone let me know my contact information didn't come in. I only sent it to the panelists. Let me try this again by sending it to everyone.
You're welcome. I just posted it right now.
Oh, thank you. Okay. It's what Mary Alice said right there. Good job. Thank you. But there's college programs starting up all of the time. We have been in contact with, there's 2 programs in Austin at UT. There's one at the community college there. There's a 3rd program starting in College Station. There are 2 up in Denton. Lots of community colleges around the state. So another, I'm going to put in that if you go to this website, it's sort of a holding house for programs all over the country. So if you go in there, you will be able to find a lot of programs all through Texas and all over the country. So Think College is where students can go and learn more about lots and lots of colleges. Because honestly, one of the things for you all to consider is if there's something you know you want to do and have an interest in, not every college has every program. And so you might look and see, can I learn more about what I'm interested in at college? If you, case in point, at my previous school in Ohio, that this school did not have mortuary services, and the young man wanted to do that. Well, if a person didn't want to do mortuary services, it wouldn't be the school to go to. So definitely be looking at your interests also as you look at thinkcollege.net to see if the college has what you might want to study. And yes, we are the TU CASA program at A&M San Antonio. TU CASA stands for Transition University for Career Advancement and Successful Adulthood. But that's a mouthful, and it's much easier to say TU CASA. Are there any other questions?
I don't see any questions coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and transfer it over to Adriana from the Texas Workforce Commission.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick.
Hi, good morning. It's great to be here with you all. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so I can pull up my presentation. Oh, if I can be made host.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you. Are y'all able to see my screen? Okay, perfect. Excellent. Oh, good morning. My name is Adriana Martinez. I'm the Regional Transition Program Specialist with Texas Workforce Commission Vocational Rehabilitation Services. Long name, and I'm the Transition Specialist for Region 6. Our Region 6 extends from Laredo to Corpus, San Antonio, all the way to the very tip of Texas in Brownsville. So it's a very large geographic area that we cover here in Region 6, but our program is throughout the entire state. And I'm here to talk about our transition services. So our transition services were designed to help students navigate the very important stage of high school to successful work and independent living. We work in partnership with our schools to provide services to students while they're attending high school, so they're prepared when they exit. We have always had a focus on juniors and seniors because that's crunch time. There's a lot of pressure placed on our students to figure out what happens after you graduate. But we are looking to expand and provide more supports at a younger age. We can take an application for a student as young as 14. So according to TEA, you're supposed to have a transition, the first transition planning meeting talk with a student before they turn 14. So even if they're 13 years and 12 months. And so then we come in at 14 to assist with providing our services. And after a student graduates from high school, our services will continue to be available to them if necessary. Again, the age range for what we call, students with disabilities, youth with disabilities is 14 to 22. And the basis of our transition services falls into what I call the big five. So we have the 5 pre-employment transition services. You might hear it called PREETs. We just shortened the name. And there are things like career exploration, work-based learning, counseling on post-secondary opportunities, job readiness, and self-advocacy. We really try to plan activities and do programs that touch all 5. But there may be instances where we just do 1, maybe 2 or 3. But our programs, our activities, and our counselors are always looking to incorporate all 5 of these areas. So I'll do a brief overview of each one, give some examples of what you might see. For career exploration, this is very common, and in today's day and age, and even before, it's very common to ask even children as young in kinder or first grade, what do you want to do when you grow up? We start career exploration so early. And when they're in our services, we look at things like age-appropriate vocational interest inventories. We look at the labor market. So one of the neatest things that we teach is how to explore the labor market, and take that resource and learn how to use it confidently to look up jobs. If you wanted to do hospitality or tourism, San Antonio is a great place to come live and work. But if you wanted to do hospitality and tourism in a small town where there's not really a demand, you may not find that job in that particular location. We look at in-demand industries and occupations. So we work very closely with our local workforce development boards. I'm in San Antonio, so I work with the Alamo board. They have specific in-demand industries and occupations that are expected to see growth, above average growth, which is around 10 to 12% over the next 5 to 7 years. And we have in-demand industries and occupations, and we try to match with employers to ensure that we're connecting our customers to jobs that are going to pay good wages and are going to have a long livelihood. We also have non-traditional employment options. We have individuals who want to be self-employed. And so that's an area that we can also assist with. Really, it's about working in partnership. We don't duplicate services. We work in partnership with our schools, our high schools predominantly. We have middle schools that reach out to us and they're interested in connecting their 14, 15-year-olds and other programs in each local area. Work-based learning, work-based learning has been proven in many research studies that if you have a student who's able to engage in multiple work-based learning opportunities during their high school years, they're more likely to get and maintain what we call competitive integrated employment. So competitive meaning they are earning the same wages as their peers. There's not a pay difference. Integrated meaning they are working side by side with non-disabled peers. We don't place individuals in supported enclaves or workshops that pay below minimum wage. We want, and we know that our customers can do the work that anyone else can do. And so work-based learning, your high schools might already be offering some of these opportunities, and we can work in partnership with them. They could include things in school or after school, things like job shadowing, career mentorships, informational interviews, non-paid or paid internships. There are some high schools I know here in San Antonio that require that you complete a certain amount of volunteer hours before you graduate. So we can help them obtain those hours. Workplace tours, field trips, pre-COVID, this was one of the ones that we did the most. And we've switched, to virtual for safety. And I know we'll always have kind of a hybrid approach now, but we're excited to get our students back, into real world settings. And things like paid and non-paid work experience. Those are really important because they're temporary positions where hopefully they're getting paid, and it really helps build a lot of different skills for our students. So counseling on post-secondary opportunities, this is also really popular. The majority of our students want to enhance their skill set. They want to graduate from high school and then go on to community college, university, or vocational training programs. Apprenticeships are so popular. So we can help them explore different programs, including those for people with specific disabilities, such as IDD, LD, autism. There's so many different programs throughout the state. We can help them navigate disability services. This is very important. Whether a student has an IEP or they have a 504 plan, if they're receiving accommodations and or modifications, it's very important for us to have that conversation and to get them set up early so that when they start the first semester of school, they're already feeling confident that they know that they have the accommodations that they need to be successful, along with tutoring supports. And we help monitor throughout the life of the academic, the degree plan, to ensure that they're keeping on track. We help navigate financial aid. So FAFSA, very important application. We connect them again with the disability offices, and then we can assist with college application enrollment process. So applying for your different programs, we can assist with ensuring that if there's a need that needs to be met, if a school requests software or hardware, or they don't have the supplies necessary, we can step in and assist. So post-secondary is very popular. There's so many things that we can assist with. It's too many to name, but definitely starting the conversation early and looking into our options is always ideal. In terms of job readiness, so this goes by different names. You might see us call it workplace readiness, job readiness, or soft skills. These are the traits that we may or may not have experienced, if we've had different jobs. There are skills and behaviors that every employer expects you to have. I always give the example of, I could print out a job posting from Indeed.com or Monster.com, and you see the ink on the page, and that you read it, this is the date it was posted, maybe it has the rate of pay, this is where it's located, these are your job duties, your education requirement, and so on. But the invisible ink that you don't see and you can't read are some of what every employer expects you to do. Show up on time, be respectful, handle conflict with colleagues, work through problem solving, come back from your lunch break without having to be told, put away your cell phone, all the invisible ink that you learn over time through different jobs. And we're here to help our students, not just read the fine print, but the invisible ink as well, help them learn those skills and understand what an employer is looking for. It's one thing to get a job. It's a whole other set of skills to keep a job. And so we also look at things like social and interpersonal skills and even independent living skills. Here are some examples of social and interpersonal skills that we commonly work on with our students. Things like communication, having a positive attitude, problem solving, teamwork, active listening, conflict resolution, that's a big one, body language, being respectful, and staying professional. And again, it's one thing to talk about this in a classroom. We have a lot of different trainings that talk about these, but then we need to put it into practice. That's where the work-based learning, like paid and non-paid work experience, are absolutely key. It's got to practice in the real world. And some independent living skills. So things like good hygiene. Very important conversation we have with our students. Time management. When it's appropriate to use the cell phone and when you need to put it away. Using transportation. Money management. The state and the federal government have really, the past, I think like year and a half, really pushed more money management and financial literacy. It's an area where we're falling a little bit short on our curriculum and our instruction. So we're seeing a lot of new initiatives coming forth in this area. Accessing your community and community safety and participating as well. Work is so important. And it makes up the majority of who we are as an identity, but it's not the only thing that we do. And so we also talk about a good work-life balance, developing friendships, and just accessing long-term supports. That's a critical conversation for any student to have. Even if they don't need a lot of long-term supports, it's still good to know where to turn. There's that financial literacy under other valuable skills. We do work with individuals with any kind of disability. And so it could be a psychological, behavioral, emotional, it could be a physical disability. It could be blind or visual impairment. We have vocational rehabilitation teachers, and they specifically work with individuals who are blind or visually impaired. We have O&M instructors, which stands for orientation and mobility skills. And we also have specialized counselors who work with our deaf and hard of hearing population. So very specific subsets. I have counselors who specialize in autism and neurodevelopmental diagnoses. So again, very specialized. We look at job seeking skills. If you apply for jobs, or you remember applying for a job and maybe you put in like 20 applications before you got a few calls back, it's a lot to keep track of. We have to teach those types of skills, resume development, interviewing, and then any other soft skills that might be necessary for employment. I've had a lot of students go into apprenticeship. So I had to learn the soft skills that are necessary for electrician programs. It's very different from the soft skills that might be required for a student who's interested in working in retail. So self-advocacy, love self-advocacy. I always plug Sam Gonzalez. He's the transition specialist for Education Service Center Region 20 here in San Antonio, has an amazing presentation on self-determination and self-advocacy. This was an area where we used to fall short. I think the concept is so broad, and there's so many things that you could tie into self-advocacy. We wanted to make sure we did it right. Now I'm happy to report we do a lot of self-advocacy. It's about teaching our customers how to effectively communicate their interests and desires. It's about helping them develop their voice and putting it into practice. Self-determination means they have the freedom to live their own lives. It's going to be different from person to person, the degree of independence that someone can achieve, but we believe all individuals should have the opportunity to try to obtain the highest level of self-determination and experience the same life opportunities in their communities. Some of the self-advocacy skills, being self-aware. The next two, disability understanding and disability disclosure. Maybe the most frequently asked question we get is, when should I disclose my disability? Should I disclose my disability? Who do I tell it to? And then what happens? We have training specifically on disability disclosure. It's one of my favorite because it describes, this is the law that protects you when you're in secondary education, in high school. And this is the law that protects you when you leave high school. What are the differences? What do I do if I feel like my rights have been violated at work? What if it was my boss who I feel violated my rights? It's a very important conversation for students to engage in and understand at an age appropriate level, and caregivers and parents as well. There's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of knowledge that can be shared regarding understanding your disability and disclosure. Looking at things like setting goals, one of my favorite conversations with students is, what happens when you achieve a goal? You set a new goal. And then what happens if you don't reach the goal? How do you navigate getting back on track? Accommodations, self-termination, knowing how to request and ask for help and to who, assertiveness, listening to others' opinions, monitoring your own progress. So you may not always have the support of a parent or a loved one to help guide you, but learning how to guide yourself through moments, and then positive self-talk. So who does all of this in our agency? Well, you might see some acronyms floating around. Our TVRCs stand for Transition Vocational Rehabilitation Counselor. They are subject matter experts in the field of transition. Their whole entire caseloads are made up of youth or students with disabilities, ages 14 to 22. They're assigned to various schools. Not uncommon for my TVRCs to carry 9 schools or more. There's a lot of schools in certain areas of the region, and the population is booming in certain pockets. Now, pre-COVID, this presentation was put together pre-COVID. So they spent most of their time on school campuses. We're getting back to our school campuses. And so we're happy to be able to interact in person again, like we used to. But we worked hybrid. And so that's a model again, moving forward, that the agency has adopted. Our VRCs minus the T, it's the same thing. They're vocational rehabilitation counselors. Now they're general counselors. They have adults on their caseload. Sometimes if we have a great number of high schools, which we do, then they might be assigned to high school. They still get the same training as a transition counselor. They're still very skilled at working with youth and their parents and the schools. And at any point in time, they can also staff cases if they need to with a TVRC. So most schools have a counselor assigned. If you're not sure who the assigned counselor is at your school, you can definitely contact myself and I can look up that information and get you connected. Or even Sam Gonzalez. He regularly gets inquiries from the community here in San Antonio, and he reaches out. Or if you're from another location outside of San Antonio, you can get in contact with anyone at our agency and we can pull up the information. If you're a brand new school or you've just never been connected with services before, that's okay too. We work with our management teams to figure out who would be assigned. A little information about how this came about with our agency. The Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA, I believe it was 2014. Many students with disabilities were leaving high school without being employed, or they weren't enrolling in post-secondary. There weren't a lot of supports in place for that very important transition from school to post-secondary life. And I have students who want to go straight to work. School is not on the radar at this time. That's okay. I have students who don't want to work right now, but they want to go to school full time. That's perfectly fine. And I have students who want to do both, Perfect. You know, we're here to support what that plan looks like moving forward with the end goal of employment. So WIOA really directed funding, federal and state funding, to students who use a disability. It charged us, VR, we're required to spend 15% of our federal funding. That's a lot of money. And every year we work really hard to ensure that we are spending all of the funds that were available to us. Every state has vocational rehabilitation everywhere you go. It operates a little differently from state to state, but the end goal is the same. Our program was created originally for service members who were coming back for more, to help them reintegrate into careers. It worked so well, we just kept lowering the age until they got to youth. And then the data really told us, in this country, we need to focus more on youth. And we need to spend the money to help them and work with the schools to get there. And so that's where PREETS was created. It was intended to really provide exposure earlier and earlier. We have frequent conversations with our schools about referring freshmen and sophomores, not just juniors and seniors. And I'm very excited when middle schools reach out. That's really young, and it's great because there's a lot of opportunity to start the conversation, demystify before you get to graduation, and you're just staring at the next stage of life, wondering what's next. Under WIOA, we also introduced a new eligibility status called potentially eligible. This was created as a means to give access to even more students faster. They still have to meet the definition of a student with a disability, which is between the ages of 14 to 22, enrolled in either secondary or post-secondary instruction. And the analogy I use, it's not always a great one, but it's like a buffet. So if you're looking to try VR services, you want to sample a dish, and you want to get connected, maybe right now is not the time to take the full application for VR services, then maybe you want to try out potentially eligible. Our counselors are there to guide you through that conversation. In no way do I expect anybody to remember like all of these categories and try to figure out where their student or their child falls. A good example is we have summer programs like Explore STEM. We have, here in San Antonio, we have UTSA. This is their fourth year of doing Explore STEM in the summer. And so sometimes I have students who hear about us in the community and they just want to come in for Explore STEM. They're really excited and this is all they want to do right now. And so we're able to deliver that Explore STEM curriculum, enroll them in the program. And we ask them after, would you like to take a full application for VR services and continue with our program? And they're like, not at this time, maybe later. That's perfectly fine. Or I have students who want to take the full VR application and access more services. You don't get all the services and potentially eligible, you just get some of them. So how to get started. If you know who your assigned VR counselor is, perfect. If you aren't sure, there's multiple ways to find out who you could get connected to. So we have a statewide call center. It was created out of the COVID period. And the phone number is 512-936-6400. Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, you will talk to a live representative. I can verify I've called the number. I also get emails from the live representatives. They will take your info, they will email, they'll look up the zip code, they'll email the office, they'll make sure that you're connected. You can also visit the website on the page, twc.texas.gov. I can never remember if that's a / or a /. It's VR near me. And that website will take you to the zip code locator. I will tell you the zip code locator is a little funny because it'll always give you 2 offices. I guess it just wants to give you a choice. So just make sure you look at the specific address of the zip code. Now the counselor will schedule an appointment either at the school, in a workforce solution office, or other location. Most of our offices are co-located. We're in the process of co-locating each and every one of our locations with your local workforce board. So if you've ever gone to a workforce board, we're probably there. So you can ask them for assistance as well with finding vocational rehab. And a neat little tech thing that we have now, if you hold up your cell phone to the screen and you open your camera and you scan the QR code, it will take you to a website called Start My VR. This is relatively new. What it is, it's like a self-portal where you can sign up for VR services. So we're very excited that we have this. And I will share my screen in just a second and I'll show you what it looks like so you have an idea. And then every presentation of ours has to include the following information because we're federally funded and state funded. So just information on Texas Workforce Commission. Our headquarters are in Austin. And then federal funding information has to be included. So I'm going to unshare this super quickly so I can show you the Start My VR. And then I'll take questions. Let me go ahead and stop the share, and then I will share the Start My VR. A little thing about Start My VR. Here we go. If you're going to refer someone other than yourself, please have that conversation with them before you refer them. I hate for it to be a surprise, like, hey, I referred you to VR. I think it would help you, but I didn't tell you. So it gives you information on if you have a physical, mental, or emotional disability that affects your ability to obtain or maintain employment. You know, you can complete the form below. This is how we base eligibility, very simplified. So if you have a physical, cognitive, or mental impairment, it can also be, they did say physical. Your documented impairment creates a substantial barrier to getting or keeping employment. Sometimes we may not know all of this information, or we have a vague idea. You don't have to come with all of the answers. Excuse me. There are times when we have to send somebody for an evaluation, need to get updated medical records, need to get updated medical evals. So it's really a conversation with the counselor to figure out what's going on. You can benefit from our services leading, again, very important. All of our services are designed for an employment outcome. If employment is not the direction that an individual is looking at this time, our agency may not be the best fit, but we can certainly provide long-term resources and other supports as well. It's not uncommon for people to come back to us years later and say, I'm ready now. That's great. And then if you are working, and let's say you need to retain your employment, we also do job retention. We have a lot of individuals who get injured on the job, or just find out that things are not working and I have a new disability or diagnosis and I need help with keeping my job. We can assist with retention of jobs as well. Please note, no attachments are allowed, but very straightforward demographic information. And then at the very bottom, how can the TWC vocational rehabilitation team help you? Again, no attachments. This is a secure website. The lock at the top left will indicate. But again, your personal identifiable information and your protected health information is very important. Do not include health-related information. So you can list like, I have a suspected disability of, X, Y, or Z, but please don't go into like full detail in this box. This is meant to connect you to an office. And then when you get with a counselor, you can share all that information. let's start my VR. Are there any questions that I can answer?
We do have one question in the chat box. It says, let me see. I think you already answered it. How do we apply for the program? Is it going to be through the high school?
If you're connected to a high school, or if you have a student in a high school, you can certainly speak with their either special education director, their case manager, 504 coordinator. They should have our information. Or if you want to, you can go to this website and you can start the process this way. An individual goes through these self-referrals, and based on the zip code will connect you to the local office. So either way is perfectly fine.
Thank you for that information, Adriana.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else have questions for Adriana? Doesn't look like anyone else has questions. So I just want to thank you and Patrick for taking your time to joining us this morning. After this presentation ends, you will be seeing, you will be receiving an email with a survey for feedback on this session. It also gives you an opportunity to give any ideas for future webinar topics. In addition, this recording will be made available in the coming days. So keep an eye out on our YouTube page and on our website. We also post information about the future webinar on our Facebook page too. If you know anyone who would like to speak to a case manager, you can always have them call the ARC of San Antonio at 210-490-4300 and ask to speak to the case manager of the day. Thank you all for joining the ARC of San Antonio today, and we hope to see you at our next presentation. Y'all take care and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.